All right, so sorry. I want to walk through some of my workflow, and this is going to be focused on the context management bits I've been talking about recently, where you need to incrementally improve, effectively, docs. And so think about the context that you're giving, whether rules, whatever you want to call it. It's just documentation, right? It's not any different than human documentation. It's like if you have somebody that knows how to program and they read code samples, they can figure out what's going on. LLMs are exactly the same. The gap with LLMs today is that the context windows are very, very small. And so I don't know what they generally are, but just assume a human's context window is like 1,000,000 times larger or some shit. And so you kind of need to think about it that way, and that you're compressing knowledge and it needs to constantly re-reference that knowledge. It doesn't keep it, there's no memory or anything like that. And ignore the memory context, concept rather, that you hear about in the industry. Generally speaking, the main thing is like you need docs. The LLMs have to constantly re-reference the docs when they're doing tasks. So if you use, I'm just going to use Claude Code for this because it's simple. And so, when you use Claude Code, you create a Claude.md. And yeah, my cat's going to meow in the background. But you can generate this with Claude init. So you go into Claude and you run /init, and it will generate a file. That's not enough. And so I want to demonstrate how we improve this, because this is sort of your bare essentials documentation for your project. It's not, this alone is not enough. There's a lot of other versions of docs, but I'm going to focus on this right now because this is fundamental to making this work with things like Sentry and our very complicated monolithic code base, right? And so I want to give you an example of something. So I had this generate, let me show you. I had this generate packages, MCP server, or the MCP cloud player, I had this generate an update to our MCP web app, which has the installation instructions, and specifically I had to add Claude Code to that. And so I just want to show you what this looks like, but I can't actually remember where all my code lives. I think it's in here, fragments, and it's remote setup. Okay, so in here, you'll see I had to add this Claude Code thing. And my problem here is it added it at the end. Now this list is somewhat in an arbitrary order, but you could argue it's alphabetical order right now. And it's like, should it be sorted by popularity? Should it be sorted alphabetically? It should probably be sorted by some kind of intent, but it wasn't. And it wasn't because why would it be, right? It's just it added to the list, which is a default behavior. So I want to change that. So first I'm going to show you how I go through this. One, when you make a change, so when it did something wrong, because Claude Code wrote those changes, you also need to instruct it to update its docs if you don't want it to make those mistakes again. So that's kind of what we're going to go through. So there's actually a few things in here. The scope thing is wrong. Let me fix that first. We'll write out some to-dos so you can see the workflow. With the Claude Code instructions that we added to the web app in client components fragments. You don't actually have to be this specific. I'm just trying to speed it up a little bit. There are only 2 steps. You don't actually choose the appropriate scope. That's done in a different way. So let's just remove that 3rd step from both the remote setup and standard IO setup instructions. Okay, so that's task 1 we're going to give it. Additionally, we want to keep the list of integrations ordered. I was thinking we'd order it by popularity, which probably means Cursor or Claude Code are first and second. Let's Cursor and Claude Code. It's not going to matter. It doesn't need this level of specificity. You can also do alphabetical, but this is important because I'm going to have it encode this in a way. Let's make a plan and get started on those changes. Once done, review Claude. This is the thing I'm talking about. Review Claude.md and look for gaps in our implementation details that would cover how we document integrations. And so this was actually a big gap. It didn't actually know where these instructions were. So when I first told it, I'm like, hey, add Claude Code to our installation instructions or whatever. All it did was go update the README. And so you kind of need to define a lot of these things. And so one thing it will likely do in this is clarify where these integration setup guides are. So when it's prompted in the future to do something like that, it's just going to know what to do. It will probably also clarify the way they're sorted, which is probably going to be popular because if you ask it a question with intent behind it, it's just going to agree with you all the time, for the most part. And so it's going to go through, update all this stuff, and it will update Claude.md at the end. And I'm going to stop speaking for a second because we might fast forward through this because otherwise it's just a waste of time. This is going to take a minute. So, all right. So at this point we are 8:50. Okay, there's my timestamp. It is going to update the Claude file with some of these changes. We might still fast forward through this. We'll see. Just takes a little too long to do all this, and I don't want to have people sitting through a long video for no reason. Cool. So at 9:15, we've got a bunch of documentation changes. So it's got the integration updates here. I'm just reading through this. Yeah, so now it's kind of giving us the guide to like how we would implement this in the future. And obviously you can prompt it to discover this, but your goal is to do as much like sort of asynchronously as possible. And so the more you can kind of let it self-guide, basically give it these directional guardrails so every new task has the right context by default, the right docs, or has some way to implicitly find those docs, which is a whole separate thing that, you know, we're going to do a little bit more research on what works best for us, and I'll talk about later. Because that could be MCP, that could be other docs that my theory is maybe you could point Claude to, or in Cursor, it has a whole rules system that, again, similar like flaky results on if it's going to use the rules appropriately or not. But like the idea is that imagine you had a docs directory or something like an MCP server that can access your docs, and it needs to run a task, some kind of task. It can figure out where the appropriate documentation is, pull in the appropriate context, know what to do there. The problem with that is a lot of our docs are not actually structured in a way that are super consumable for an engineer. A lot of them are just like super explaining, like in the sense of it's like, it's a lot of words. It's a lot of words that are like crufty and like they don't really tell you anything. It's just filler content, right? In addition, a lot of our docs, and I'm talking about like our contributor docs, a lot of our docs are actually like, they're just like spread out. And so you might have 3 different things that explain piecemeal parts of one system. And you really need that consolidated. You need to consolidate it so it's actually concise. So it's like focused on code samples and things like that. And if you can do that, the systems are beautiful. Like they will do a very good job with guardrails on prior art. When you try to one-shot something with no guardrails, no prior art, like say a new code base or something, it's going to do who knows what. When you try to one-shot something in a established code base where it has prior art plus it has like sort of guardrails that define how it should operate, it will get it very, very close, if not fully correct on the first try. It may not be exactly how you like the code, but you know, it's like tabs versus spaces. Who cares? So anyway, so it has updated everything. So let's see where we're at. So we've got this, you know, it's kind of done what we wanted in here. It's useful. It moved the Claude Code guys. So it did exactly what we said. So that's good. And the one last thing, I've been using this Claude commit a little bit. Actually, hang on. Ref integration instructions. I've been using, I don't know if that's going to work, this Claude commit flow, which just brings up the agent and runs commit in it. And this will write the commit message for you. It's not actually that good. It usually writes, particularly actually, I think it might be better if you run it like this, where I close the interpreter and reopened it, or you type /clear. /clear will do the same thing. Because what I've seen happen is if you run this inside of the existing context, it's going to like add some weird bullet points for like if you asked it to refine something, it's going to make that part of its like context in the commit message, which makes no sense. It's not how you would reason about a commit message. And so when you remove all that context from it and all it can do is look at the code changes, it actually ends up producing a better, more reflective commit message for like what you kind of want as a user. And honestly, like I don't care that much about commit messages. Like, yes, sometimes they matter, but like for things like this, who cares? We do it because we should do it because it looks better, not because we actually get value out of the commit messages in something like this. It's like, oh, okay, you move that from here to here, it makes sense. Like it's a lot easier often to understand what's going on by looking at the code. So sort of abstracting this to an LLM that's going to like be more thoughtful, if you will. Thoughtful not being real, but like you get my point. It's just like it's a nice win. And so this is what it came up with: their commit message, document integration, UI, and reorder. Perfect, done. Don't even care about the bullet points. Cool. I'm going to push this, get it merged, edit this video, and upload it. Cool.